you ready to learn some real life English with comprehensible input? Well, good, because today we're going to have a real life English conversation between two native speakers about something that our guest today and I have in common. We are both in a relationship with a woman from a completely different culture. Let's go. Hello, everybody. Today we're having what I think is going to be a very useful and interesting conversation, and we are going to have it with a very special guest and friend of the channel, Jay. Jay, how are you, my friend?
Thank you, Kyle. I'm wonderful. I'm doing very well. It's a sunny morning. I'm feeling bright, and yeah, I'm ready to jump in and to begin.
All right. So, the last collaboration that you and I did, Jay, it turns out that we share a lot of subscribers and a lot of people who love my videos, love your videos too. So hello to everybody who watches both of us. I am positive that we both appreciate you all so much. And I think it's really cool, Jay, that a lot of people found both of us. I think that says something about our personalities, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was really happy to both collaborate with you last time, and then we both read the comments and just seeing all the positivity. Like you said, you know, people saying, oh, no way, like my two favorite my two favorite creators. And yeah, it was a big joy to read. So thank you from us to you. You know who you are.
So if you guys have not seen Jay's work before, his channel is absolutely awesome. Big shout to you, Jay. His quality is great. And your filming skills are awesome, man. Every time I watch your videos, I'm inspired. So thank you for making great content. Guys, English by Jay. Awesome comprehensible input channel.
Thank you.
Now, are you ready to get into this deep conversation, my friend?
Absolutely, yes. I was born for this.
So, in this conversation, we're going to be talking about an experience that Jay and I share, which is we're both in a relationship with a woman from a different country and a completely different culture. But we're kind of seeing the same situation from different points of view, because I live in my home country, the United States, and my wife, Ingrid, came up here from Colombia. Now, Jay, can you tell us about the situation between you and Chang?
Yes. So my situation is opposite. I am British. I lived in England my whole life. And recently I traveled to Vietnam. I now live in Vietnam, where I met my partner, Chang. And we live together in Vietnam.
Okay, now can we start this off with just how did we meet our significant others? How did you meet Chang when you went to Vietnam?
Okay, let me try to condense this into its shortest form. My friend, Ollie, was visiting me in Vietnam. He booked his flight ticket for Thursday, the 19th of April. But he arrived one day later. He found out. So I was in Hanoi. We were planning to travel the Ha Giang Loop, which is like a motorbike tour around the north of Vietnam. So my friend Ollie arrived one day late. I was on my own. I went to a coffee shop in Hanoi, and I was doing some writing and reading, and I met Chang there. She was doing the same thing, reading. And yeah, we connected. We started talking about the things that we both love, our passions, art, creativity. And then I went off, I did my motorbike tour, came back to Hanoi for a few days, and we connected again, met up. And then, yeah, maybe a few months later, I'd moved back down to Da Nang, back down to the south, and Chang decided to move her life here too, by the beach. And yeah, the rest is history. It's been a lovely journey ever since.
Wow. So I think I'm understanding this right. Is it fair to say that if your friend had showed up when he was supposed to show up, you would have never met her?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so thank you, Ollie.
But that's just such a cool, what we might call a twist of fate. A twist of fate, which means like something happened that should not have happened that completely changed something big in your life.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. It's strange. We talk about it like that was so unlikely to happen, yet it happened. And then having met Chang, that changed the trajectory, that changed the direction of my life. I would say I may not have, started a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel if I hadn't had met Chang. So yeah, it's weird. These strange synchronicities in life, strange things that add up and connect, and the people we meet, the experiences we have. There's something quite magic in it.
Wow. And it's actually funny because my story is similar, that I should have never met my wife. I should have never been able to meet my wife, because had my wife and I met a different time in my life, I wouldn't have spoke Spanish. And she grew up in Colombia. She came to the United States on a program between Colombia and the States where they give young people visas to come here and work as an au pair, which is another word for nanny or someone that takes care of kids. So she came here, and of everywhere in the whole United States, she wound up working with a person 20 minutes from my house. And she did not speak English at the time, but it just so happens that we met at the time in my life where I had become fluent in Spanish. So it's these strange twists of fates that have brought us both to the women that we're spending our lives with, which is really cool, I think.
Wow. So did you first approach her in Spanish?
So this is another funny story, okay? So you can imagine that the only people who can have an au pair, which is a live-in nanny, basically you're paying a huge amount of money to have another person come live with you and take care of your children. Middle-class people can't do this, okay? It's only very wealthy people. So this very wealthy lady, who was also a little bit, little bit cuckoo, we might say. She was the first person who my wife wound up working for. And this person was almost treating my wife like a slave. She couldn't leave the house. So in her boredom, she was, online, just trying to find some way to socialize. We met online. She writes me in English saying, "Hi, how are you?" So I respond with like a normal long paragraph of what I'm doing. She doesn't reply. And I'm like, maybe this girl doesn't really speak English. So I replied and said, "Hey, I speak Spanish," and I replied in Spanish. She replied there, and we hit it off there. And I could do a whole video about the stories of how I went and rescued her from this crazy lady's house. We snuck her out for our first date, and it was, one of the best days of my life when I met her.
Wow.
And yeah, everything lined up, everything in my life leading towards that moment, pushing me to learn Spanish, pushing her to come this way, and it all met in one little point 20 minutes from my house where, somebody from the other side of the world, just like you and Chang in that coffee shop, two people's paths took them to that one spot in time, and now look at the beautiful things that have happened and what might happen in the future.
Yeah, wonderful. I was talking with Chang last night in bed about that. It's just so bizarre. Like, you're talking about two people's different paths. Okay, Ingrid's born here, you're born here, complete different side of the world. The same for Chang and I. And you live just completely different childhoods. Your experiences, your thoughts, your beliefs, these are just, vastly different. Yet at some point, right, your paths intersect, and then from there, hopefully grow. that's the idea. At least I think, in a healthy partnership is growth from both partners and together. So yeah, I think it's a really wild thing to have met from completely different sides of the world, but something that's deeply fulfilling if you find, someone who vibes with you, as the young people say.
And just to let everybody know, Jay is no longer young people. You've joined me in the 30 club, my friend.
I'm ancient, mate.
Happy belated birthday, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, 30 years old. I feel I feel in the prime of my life. The prime is like the best time. Yeah, I feel like I'm just getting started. So thank you for the birthday wishes, and I'll do a bit more exercise, make sure I don't get too much of a belly.
Absolutely, and I feel like I'm getting better every day as well.
Awesome.
I think the 30s, if you take care of yourself, really are the best time of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get into these deep questions about what it's actually like to be with a partner from a different part of the world. What is something that you have learned from your partner's culture? Is the Vietnamese culture very different from the English culture?
Good question. Something I've learned from my partner's culture, from Vietnamese culture. Firstly, yes, it is very different from my culture back home in the UK. If there's one thing I've learned since moving here, it's that Vietnamese people are really kind and welcoming and really just warm towards you. They always smile. They always help you when you're in need, and even when you're not in need. So yeah, it's that openness, that warmness, and willingness to help people, even if they're a stranger. So I'm a complete stranger, they don't know me, yet they always smile, they always meet me with kindness. I think that's a really nice behavior, and comparing that to behavior in the UK, people tend to be a lot more closed off with their blinkers on. They tend to be in their own world. So it's harder to get a smile from a stranger. We are less likely in my culture to help people on the street who need help. In Vietnam, way more likely to help people. The people are just, they show you their love. They might not always, in their culture, it's not a thing to express love with words. Oh, I love you so much. No, they don't say that. They show you with kindness, with acts of kindness.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I've heard that Vietnam is a very safe and welcoming place to travel
absolutely.
or live. Now, has that rubbed off on you? And when something rubs off on you, it means something in your environment or the people around you rubs off on you, meaning you start acting like that as well?
Nice explanation. Yes, it has rubbed off on me. I always grew up in a household. My grandma was, again, we've talked about my grandma, but yeah, she taught me kindness. So that's something I hold very close in my heart. It's one of the values I deeply cherish. So yeah, I would say beyond that, just the act of being friendly with strangers. And helping people if someone is in need. I went skiing recently for my birthday, and there was a little girl that fell on the floor, and I was helping Chang stand up. So after that, I went to help the girl stand up. I actually fell on her first, but after that, I helped her up and she skied off. Yeah, that gave me a good feeling. It gives me a good feeling to help people. You know this, Kyle, and from us making these videos, it's a wonderful thing to help you at home watching this. To help in any way possible, for me, makes me feel good. So yes, it has rubbed off on me.
Wonderful. So you're a better person now than you were when you first crossed the border into Vietnam. That's a beautiful thing.
For sure, yeah. I had long hair when I first traveled to Vietnam as well. I was a bit of a hippie.
Oh no, I want to see a picture. You have to send a picture of that later.
I'll send you a picture. Yeah.
Okay. You know, I have a similar experience with Colombians and the Colombian culture. It's a similar thing, but I wasn't going to put it that way in helping people. I was going to say the closeness of family. But I think we're really trying to get the same thing, which is that Western cultures, like ours, English and American are not completely the same, but there are similarities. Everybody's so busy,
Yeah.
Everybody's so busy. They're doing their own thing, working so much. Just, it's super fast paced. But in Colombia, and it sounds like in Vietnam, you take more time to worry if your mom's doing okay, if your brother and sister are all right. You check in on all your friends, and it's so much so that it was shocking for me, because even though, let's say, for example, my sister and I, we love each other. She lives in Chicago, which is about an hour driving from me. We'll text each other, every now and then, which could be once a week or once a month. But we're not calling each other and talking on the phone all the time. When we see each other, we're not giving each other big, huge hugs and a kiss on the cheek. But the Colombian culture is just so close. It seems like they put a much bigger value on the personal connections with their loved ones.
Do you notice that with Ingrid's family? Like, do they meet you with big hugs and kisses?
Yeah, and you know what? It's something that's rubbed off on me as well. And, with even just because, we live in the U.S., so it's not like we're going to Colombia all the time, but I go to her church with her in Chicago, which is mostly Colombians, or spend time with her and her Colombian friends. And now it's completely normal just to give your friend a big hug when you see them. But I think for the average American, that is not normal. I don't know about the average Brit.
Yeah, the same. Yeah.
It's a much, I don't want to say cold culture, but my wife used to call me seco, which in Spanish means dry.
Dry.
But it's a way that they use to describe somebody who's kind of cold and distant. But I always thought I was a warm and welcoming person until I started hanging around Colombians who hug you, and they're just much closer, I think, in the culture. Much smaller distance between people.
So has that rubbed off on you, Kyle?
My wife has this friend named Lily, and she's an older lady at the church. She's not old, she's in her 40s. And she's become a dear friend of mine too. And every time I see her, I give her the biggest hug, and I just love it. Colombian culture has turned me into a hugger, and definitely opened my heart up and made me a more warm person, I might say.
Awesome. I want to flip this around and ask you guys at home, is it normal in your culture to hug and to be very close with people, to tell them that you love them? Or, are you more distant? Where are you from, first of all, and what is it like in your culture? Are you very close with your family, or are you more separated? Because I know different places in the world show love in different ways. So how do you show love to your family?
We'll be reading those comments, guys. Let us know.
Absolutely.
So that's very interesting, because, for my family, saying I love you is super easy. But maybe showing it with hugs and affection is considered strange or unusual. Whereas I've met a lot of Latinos, a lot of my Mexican friends especially, who have told me, my parents never say they love me. And I think it comes from a hard upbringing. They really struggled growing up. So it's hard for them to express it, because their culture was shut up and get to work, You don't sit around talking about your feelings and your problems, you just work. But you know that your family's there for you because of that closeness. They just don't say it.
Interesting that you mention it's because, or it could be because of the difficulties in growing up, like, shut up and get to work kind of idea, that Yeah, I don't know if that's the same in Asia, but I know in Vietnamese culture, as I mentioned before, they don't necessarily say that they love you, but they will show you with the care and, just, caring for you. So I'm interested why that is happening. And I feel like you could have hit a point there. Like, yeah, who knows?
Vietnam has had had some rough times in their past as well.
Absolutely.
Everywhere in the world has, but maybe the countries like the US or England, whose harder times are a little bit further behind them in the history books, maybe it's a little easier for us to express ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Everything. Now I have a question for you, Kyle. What is something beautiful about mixing two different cultures?
Well, you create something new, really. And it's really cool to see these mixes. And I've got a bunch of examples of that. Part of it is the Spanglish that my wife and I speak, which Spanglish is a fun word that is Spanish and English put together. So a lot of times our conversations, get really mixed up with the language you're speaking. She's speaking English, I'm speaking Spanish. I'm speaking English, she's speaking Spanish. Sometimes we'll take an English verb and turn it into a Spanish verb. We'll conjugate it like a Spanish verb, like quiero napar. Like, I want to take a nap. And nobody else would understand what that means, but it's something fun, cute, and beautiful that we've made together. Another thing, with my wife, but also any culture, when you mix these cultures, and this is something I've seen with all the cooking that I do here on the channel, I take all these dishes and I sometimes put a little twist on it, by what I think of as far as what this dish should have, but based on my experience as a cook or the things that I know taste good. And it's not disrespectful. So when you mix cultures, you're not changing them in a disrespectful way. You're taking the beautiful things from each of them and pushing something new and beautiful completely forward. Like a funny example is there's a dish called feijoada. All of our Brazilian fans watching now will know what that is. And I made that dish for one of my wife's Brazilian friends. Her and her boyfriend came over. I had the pleasure of cooking a Brazilian dish with them. And there's something else called pão de queijo, which is a little cheese bread. And I made those two together because those are the two Brazilian foods that I like. Nobody eats those together in Brazil, but it turned out to be absolutely delicious. So that's something that would have never happened there. But when cultures start to collide, you get interesting mixtures like that. And the last thing I'll say about this is I think that, parenthood's not for everybody, but if you do have a child in a relationship like this, like my wife is pregnant, so we've got a little girl on the way. Congrats. This child, thank you so much, Jay. We're so excited. But
yeah, I bet.
This child is going to grow up perfectly bilingual without ever taking an English class, without ever taking a Spanish class, because her mother's going to speak to her from day one in perfect native level Spanish, and her father's going to be speaking to her as a native English speaker. So that girl is going to have wonderful Spanish and English. She's going to have family on the other side of the earth, family here, and, different cultures, different traditions.
Yeah.
She's going to have such a bigger world than I had when I was a kid, And that's a really, really wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's really powerful. You can provide that for her, and I bet you're excited to give her that rich experience. How is she going to learn English? So basically to our viewers at home, right? How does a baby learn English? What method is she going to be able to become fluent in Spanish and English at the same time? What is it?
I like what you did there, Jay. Comprehensible input. My daughter is going to learn both English and Spanish the way that you guys are improving your English right now. It works, guys, and it's the oldest language learning technique in the world.
just a quick one. If you are enjoying this conversation so far with Kyle and myself, we actually have two parts to this. The first part will be here on YouTube, and the second part will be over on my English learning platform called Sprout, where you can watch comprehensible input English videos all in one place, all designed for your English level. And after you watch the videos, we have just released JI, which is an AI version of myself. You can watch the video and then talk with JI about the video. So you're reinforcing all those words and the knowledge that you learned in the video. And the idea behind Sprout is to create this English learning environment for you in an inexpensive way. So you don't have to travel to England or America, but you can watch and consume as much English as possible and then practice and use that English in context and conversation to help you become fluent in English without having to travel to those countries. So we're continually making it more valuable for you guys. And the second episode of this conversation will be over on Sprout. So I think Kyle has something to say.
Yeah, guys. On Sprout, there's tons of exclusive content from myself, Jay, some of the best English creators in the world. You can speak with J.I., and who knows, maybe even in the future, Kyle AI too. So my friends, if you want to try out Sprout 2 weeks for free, click the link in the description and use my code PENSANDO. I hope to see you there.
Back to the video.
Okay, so like I said, my daughter's going to have traditions from the United States, from Colombia. She's going to have a rich history. Now, I'm wondering, Jay, I'm really curious, are there very different traditions in Vietnam? Because I have no idea. I don't know really any of the holidays in Vietnamese culture. I don't know what the main religion is. I have no idea. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, of course. I can share both those things. So the Vietnamese, the main religion in Vietnam is Buddhism. And yeah, there are temples all over Vietnam. It's a very peaceful place, peaceful people. And for me, I mainly eat vegetarian food. So yeah, there's loads of vegetarian restaurants, vegan restaurants. And yeah, I think that is because of the Buddhist influence. In terms of holidays, they have one main holiday per year, and it's their New Year's holiday. So New Year for people in the West begins somewhere between the 31st and the 1st, right? Now, they follow the I think it's the Chinese calendar. So here it's called Tet, T-E-T, Tet. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And yeah, for New Year's, it's a huge celebration in Vietnam. They have maybe 9-10 days off. They move from the cities to the smaller villages to go spend time with their family, their relatives, grandma, grandpa, cousins, aunties, uncles, and generally just eat a lot of food in that time, play card games, spend all that time together. And one thing that it's symbolized by is they have these kumquat trees. A kumquat is like a small orange. And they also have cherry blossom trees. So it's very normal to, during Tet, they sell them by the side of the road. So hundreds of trees are lined up by the side of the road, and everyone's on motorbikes in Vietnam. So you drive up, you tell the person that you want to buy a tree, maybe you tell them your address, and then they will take this huge tree, which are massive pots, and load them up on the back of their motorbike, as everything is transported in Vietnam. And then they will deliver that by motorbike to your house, usually to rent. So you will take it for a short period of time, you are renting it, and then you will give it back to them after Tet. You can also buy them too. But yeah, for me as a Westerner, to experience a holiday where the entire nation gets so excited, and to them it's a time of like renewal as well, just like New Year's for us. So for me, it's great. I get to experience New Year's for us and then their New Year's. And one more thing, it's culturally, so a big thing here is lucky money. Instead of New Year's resolutions, it's mainly about prosperity and health for the year to come. Prosperity meaning wealth, money, how rich you are. But they have these small red envelopes, a small red envelope, and inside they would put some cash, some money, and you would give that you would go to your friend's house and you would usually give it to the kids. The kids would get the lucky money and they would be very excited about it. So for them, it's like a kind of Christmas and New Year's all in one. They're getting the money and also, the New Year's festivities. It's fun.
Sounds fun. I think I like that holiday. Long vacation from work and an envelope full of cash. Sounds pretty good.
So a big part of culture is food, obviously. And I'm curious, what food has Ingrid introduced you to? What food do you eat when you eat with her family in Colombia?
So I was introduced to a lot of foods, interesting foods in Colombian culture. My favorite dish is a dish called bandeja paisa, which is a big platter, and it has rice, beans, arepas, which is like a little biscuit almost, sausage, steak, eggs, avocado. Not vegetarian friendly, but absolutely delicious. And I was lucky enough to enjoy that there. But the eating culture itself is very different there. Like a couple examples, I don't even eat breakfast. I eat 2 meals a day. I eat at 12 o'clock noon and then anytime before 8 o'clock p.m. So I eat twice a day. But I think people here, even if they do eat breakfast, it's something very quick. You know, something a lot of people eat on the way to work. In Colombia, it's kind of the opposite. They have a big breakfast with rice and chicken and vegetables, and then they could kind of snack and eat smaller things the rest of the day. But it was very hard. My wife and I kind of had to compromise with that, because if she doesn't eat until 12 o'clock, she feels like she's going to faint. But for me, it's completely normal to never eat breakfast. I actually tried a very interesting food in Colombia. I can't say it was a good one, but I'm curious to know what you think about it and if you would try it. So what it is, they call them hormigas culonas, which basically means an ant with a big butt. And what they do is they dry these ants out, and then they're crunchy and dry, and you just kind of eat them like a piece of popcorn or something. And everybody was telling me all the time we're in Colombia, oh, they're good, they're good. So I finally found a place that had them, and these things, Jay, are probably like that big. Big. They're like the size of a beetle, okay?
Wow.
And I put maybe 5 or 6 in my hand. They come in a bag, and I just ate it. It's disgusting. And I'm sorry for any Colombians who are watching who love those ants, but it was not very good. The taste was not pleasant. But I ate it from a beautiful view looking over the city of Bucaramanga. So it was a very cool experience. Would you try that if you were in Colombia, Jay? Some hormigas culonas?
Well, based on your review there, I'm going to say no. However, based on me being open-minded, then yes.
Okay, now let's turn this around. Have you tried any crazy things that, well, let's not say crazy because that's a point of view. Something that the average Westerner would think is very strange in Vietnam?
That's a good question. Not in Vietnam, actually. In Thailand was the closest I got to trying something weird. We just said, don't label it. All right. To the average Westerner, it's weird. Sorry if there are any Thai people watching. Yeah, there was markets full of crickets and grasshoppers and mealworms, which is like a small worm. And yeah, like you just said there, Kyle, it was like they were dried, crispy, almost like we have something in the UK called Bombay mix, which is like spiced Indian potato chip snacks. So that's the closest kind of comparison that I can draw, just in bug form, snacks in bug form. They were crunchy. I actually got one stuck in my tooth. Yeah, they were all right, not bad, not for me.
I guess it's an abundant protein source, probably
Yeah, true.
very affordable. So that's probably saved lives in that part of the world at some point. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why we shouldn't judge other people's food, you know?
Yeah, no judgment.
Completely strange the first time you see it, though. And I know there's tons of things we do here that a lot of you guys would look at and say, what? Why are you doing that? So that's actually something really cool about dating somebody from a different part of the world is you stop judging so much. You become more what we might call open-minded.
Yeah.
So, Jay, how has dating somebody from a different country and different culture made you more open-minded as a person?
Very good question. I suppose the longer you spend with someone who has a different set of beliefs and a different ways of thinking, experiences different feelings to you, the more comfortable you become with that person, the more you can communicate these things. Talk about why you think the way you do, why you act the way that you act, why you believe the things that you believe. And yeah, you learn to understand them much more deeply, the way their mind works. And the weird thing is you realize that it's completely different from the way your mind works, from the way that you think. Every one of us thinks in a different way, and those thoughts are based on how we grew up, our childhood, our experiences in life. So by meeting someone from a different culture, by spending time with them, by becoming close with them, you, like you said, Kyle, it just opens your mind, and it makes you think from other people's perspectives as well as your own.
Absolutely. So I'd like to wrap this video up. I have one more question for you. Once we get talking, Jay, I really enjoy
Likewise.
speaking with you, man. So we could go
blabber.
and go and go. So yeah, we blabber, which means just to talk and talk and talk. So let's wrap this up with one last really good question,
Yeah.
okay? What have your experiences been like learning your partner's language or your partner learning yours, learning how to communicate with somebody who grew up in a completely different language?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love the language questions. So Chang speaks wonderful English, and yeah, she basically has a very, very fluent level of English. So I'm fortunate because the opposite is not true. I do not speak fluent Vietnamese. I speak the most fundamental, basic Vietnamese. So my experience with learning the language, I would say I'm curious about Vietnamese culture and language. She's curious about English culture or Western culture and language. And yeah, we meet somewhere in the middle. So all our communication is in English. It would be a nightmare if we were to try to communicate in Vietnamese because I just don't have the level. And talking about language quickly, so the way that English works, the English language, we call it a stress-based language. And that means that we put emphasis or stress on certain words. So, for example, okay, I was going to say the word table. 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 There is a stress on the te of that sound. Vietnamese doesn't work in the same way. It's called a tonal language. So they have different tones. One will go up, one will go down. One will be high and the same. There are 5 or 6 different tones. And those tones determine the meaning of the word. So I think it's a struggle for not just myself, but a lot of other Western people when trying to learn Vietnamese and any tonal language like Chinese too, is that we have this other component, this other thing in language learning that, excuse me, that we have never had to deal with before. The tones. I have to listen to them, understand them, and actually be able to produce them. I have to remember a word in Vietnamese, a vocabulary word, and then on top of that, I have to remember which tone it has on top of that to be able to produce that tone accurately and consistently. So it's a big challenge, I would say. Conversely, I've not been so committed with my learning Vietnamese, honestly. I've been hugely focused on building the YouTube channel, on growing Sprouts, and providing English value for people. So I've been more focused on enhancing my command of the English language and growing the YouTube and business. That being said, if any of you are Vietnamese out there, if you're Vietnamese and you're watching right now, please make comprehensible input content like Kyle's. Please make comprehensible input content like mine. This would be hugely beneficial for not just me, but anyone learning Vietnamese, because it really is the best way to learn. If you're there and talking slowly and showing me your phone and talking about the things around you and talking about things that I can understand the context, it's much easier for me to get that listening practice. And beginners and intermediates need a lot of input, just like Kyle's baby to be. Yeah, so that's my experience with language. Long story short, I'm not very good at Vietnamese.
So, I think that in this type of relationship, a huge motivation as far as learning the language is to be able to communicate with your partner. So that my wife learned English really fast, being here, working here, being with me, and I spoke Spanish already. So I was able to explain to her so many things, and I improved my Spanish with her a ton. But you met the pretty girl, but she already spoke your language, so that took away your motivation. But I promise you, Jay, if you met her and her English was not so good, you'd be speaking fluent Vietnamese right now, my friend.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So, you know what? This whole conversation, it sounded like it's really great. These all sound like good things about dating somebody from a different culture, but it can't all be good, can it?
Surely not.
You think you could tell us something bad about dating somebody from a different culture?
So we have the pros. We've talked about the pros. And of course, there has to be cons, some bad side. So actually, that is in the next video. And you can watch that video over on my English platform, Sprout.
All right, my friends. Thank you all for watching. I truly hope to see you guys over at Sprout, where Jay and I will continue this wonderful conversation. Thanks a lot,
Thank you,
Jay.
guys. Thank you, Kyle. And